You're driving alone on a long, empty stretch of road. The hum of your truck engine is your only company. Then, a feeling creeps up your spine. Something's wrong. A shadow in the rearview mirror, or the unnerving sense that someone, or something, is watching you. For truck drivers, these stretches of highway can turn from mundane to terrifying in an instant. And what you're about to hear are not just stories from the imagination. They are real. These are stories of terror, unsolved mysteries that defy explanation. Let's dive into 3 terrifying truck driver incidents that have haunted highways for decades. In the early 1990s, fear swept across the Midwest as the mysterious I-70 killer stalked travelers along Interstate 70. This cold, calculated murderer turned routine stops into deadly encounters, leaving truckers and locals terrified. Despite multiple murders, the killer's identity remains unknown. It all started in April 1992, when a murder took place in Indianapolis, Indiana. The victim was a young store clerk, shot in the back of the head at close range. The method was chilling, quick, efficient, and merciless. But this was just the beginning. Over the next several months, similar murders occurred across Indiana, Kansas, and Missouri. The victims, store employees, gunned down in small businesses along the quiet, lonely stretches of Interstate 70. Each victim met the same fate: a single .22 caliber bullet to the head, execution style. The I-70 killer became a shadow that haunted the small towns and truck stops along the interstate. Police were left baffled. There was no clear motive, no connections between the victims, and no robbery. The killer didn't take money or goods. He left behind only a trail of bodies and an atmosphere of fear. The truckers who frequented these routes felt the tension. The simple act of pulling into a gas station or stopping for food could now mean a fatal encounter. In total, 6 people were murdered in a span of just a few months. All were shot in broad daylight inside their workplaces. Despite multiple investigations, tips, and public pleas for information, the killer vanished as mysteriously as he had appeared. No fingerprints, no clues, no suspects. Law enforcement was left grasping at shadows, with truckers and locals alike wondering if the killer was someone who walked among them, or perhaps someone they had unknowingly passed on the road. For truckers traveling along Interstate 70 in those years, the fear was palpable. Every stop at a gas station felt dangerous. Truck stops, once a place of respite, became fraught with tension. Some drivers even reported seeing suspicious figures lurking near rest areas, but no solid leads ever emerged. Could the killer have been a fellow traveler, blending in with the other drivers on the road? Or was he someone who simply disappeared into the night after his killing spree? To this day, the identity of the I-70 killer remains unknown. The case is cold, but the memory of those murders lingers in the minds of truckers and residents along that stretch of highway. Some believe he could still be out there, driving those same roads, waiting for the right moment to strike again. For those who remember the terror of the early 90s, the I-70 killer is more than just a ghost story. He's a real living nightmare, one that may never truly be put to rest. In the spring of 1976, on Route 29 in Virginia, a family of 4 set off on what should have been an ordinary road trip to visit relatives. The family consisted of a mother, a father, and their 2 young children, eager for a weekend getaway. They left their small town early in the morning, driving down the quiet roads that ran parallel to the rolling hills of Virginia. But as the day wore on, the route they took would lead them into one of the most unsettling mysteries in modern history, one that remains unsolved to this day. As they drove down the highway, a truck appeared behind them, catching up quickly. The driver signaled for the family to pull over, gesturing toward their rear tire. Concerned, the father slowed the car and pulled over to the side of the road. The trucker stopped alongside them, stepping out of his cab. He warned the family of a flat tire, offering to help guide them to a nearby repair shop just off the main road. Grateful for the offer, and not thinking much of it, the family agreed to follow him. They were reassured by the trucker's helpful demeanor, a seemingly good Samaritan willing to lend a hand. For miles, they followed the truck down the winding roads. But as time went on, something didn't feel right. The road became more isolated. The towns and service stations they expected to see never appeared. The family began to feel uneasy. But before they could turn back, both the truck and the family's car vanished. Hours later, a passing motorist found the family's car abandoned on the side of the road. It was locked, with no sign of a struggle. Strangely, there was no flat tire, and nothing was wrong with the vehicle. It was as if the family had simply disappeared. A massive search was immediately launched. Police, volunteers, and even the FBI combed the surrounding areas for any sign of the family or the mysterious truck driver. But nothing was found. No bodies, no evidence, not even tire marks leading off the road. It was as though the trucker and the family had both been erased from existence. Locals whispered about what could have happened. Some speculated that the trucker had lured the family into a trap, while others wondered if they had been victims of something more supernatural. Despite countless investigations over the years, no leads ever materialized. The trucker's identity was never discovered, and no one came forward with any credible sightings. Route 29 became synonymous with dread, especially for truckers and long-distance travelers. To this day, the disappearance of that family remains one of Virginia's most baffling cold cases, an enduring mystery that leaves behind only fear and unanswered questions. Our third story takes us to a lonely stretch of highway in Utah during the fall of 1983. Joe Thompson, an experienced truck driver, was making his routine overnight trip through the barren landscape. The drive was long, the road quiet, and the fog that had begun to roll in made visibility difficult. Joe was used to these conditions, but what happened next would forever change the way he viewed the road and reality itself. As Joe rounded a bend, his headlights caught a figure standing by the roadside. It was a young woman, soaked from the light rain, her clothes clinging to her as she waved him down. She seemed distressed and cold, a sight no seasoned driver could ignore. Concerned for her safety, Joe pulled his truck over to offer help. The woman explained that her car had broken down a few miles back, and she needed a ride to the nearest town. Though wary of picking up hitchhikers, Joe's instincts told him she was in genuine need, so he invited her into the cab. As they began driving, he tried to make conversation, asking about her car and if she needed to contact someone. The woman's responses were short, vague, and strangely detached. She gave little information about herself, only that she had to get home quickly. Joe couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. As they drove further into the fog, the cab of the truck started to feel cold, unnaturally cold. Joe checked the heater, which was working fine, but the chill in the air persisted. The woman remained silent, her eyes fixed straight ahead, her earlier urgency now replaced with an eerie calm. The road seemed to stretch on endlessly, and the isolated landscape around them made Joe more uneasy by the minute. Finally, they neared a small gas station, and Joe told the woman that this would be a good place to stop and get help. But when he turned to speak to her, the seat next to him was empty. She had vanished. Shocked, Joe pulled over immediately, searching the cab and checking outside the truck. There was no sign of her anywhere. She had simply disappeared without a trace. Panicked and confused, Joe drove to the nearest police station to report what had happened. To his disbelief, the officers were not surprised. They explained that over the years, several truck drivers had reported picking up a young woman along that same stretch of road, only for her to vanish without explanation. Local legend had it that a young woman had died in a car accident nearby, and some believed her spirit haunted the highway, forever seeking a ride home. Joe, a man of logic and reason, struggled to make sense of what had happened. He had picked her up, talked to her, and she had sat in his truck. But now, she was gone. To this day, Joe refuses to drive that route at night, and the tale of the vanishing hitchhiker continues to be shared among truckers, leaving many to wonder if some things on the road are beyond explanation. These stories are more than just legends. They are real, documented events that have left us with more questions than answers. The highways that stretch across countries and continents are not just paths between destinations. They are also corridors for the unknown, the unsolved, and the terrifying. The I-70 killer remains at large. A family vanished without a trace on Route 29, and a hitchhiker in the Scottish Highlands continues to haunt those who stop to help. For truck drivers, the road can be as dangerous as it is lonely. Next time you're traveling late at night or stopping at a desolate rest stop, remember these stories. Stay alert, stay vigilant, and never assume you're alone. If these stories sent a chill down your spine, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. You never know. Someone you know might need the reminder to stay cautious out on the open road. And remember, stay safe out there, because you never know what or who might be waiting in the dark.